And the two parties who were involved in this, Ms. Manage and Mr. Drips, are you here? Yes, I have a copy of those for you as well. Right. Now, Mr. Gill.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. There's no objection to those exhibits. We too have new exhibits, or additional exhibits, I should say, which we've marked, and I placed copies up on the dais. Members of the board, we may an overview of the existing conditions. Would you please describe the existing conditions of the property?
So this is an existing developed lot, approximately 11 3/4 acres. It's bound on the north and west by Route 41 and Starr Road respectively, bounded on the south and east by mostly undeveloped lots. The existing property or the subject property has an existing building with a footprint area of 56,331 square feet, and is doing with parking areas.
Existing trees and access ways and driveways.
Now I'm going to ask you to take a look at Exhibit A10. That a plan showing the improvements which PuroLite proposes as part of this conditional use process.
Yes, it is.
Is that plan, though not called conditional use plan, included within the land development plan set, which I referenced a moment ago?
A version of this plan is, yes.
Okay, is that called the site plan?
Yes.
Now, to be clear, Mainstay prepared the land development plan. set.
That's correct.
Would you please take a look at Exhibit A14, A15, and A16? Tell us if you recognize those plans. Are those part of the land development plan set which PureLite, excuse me, submitted to New York?
Yes.
Using those plans, would you please describe for us what it is which PureLite proposes for the property at 380 Starr Road? Again, understanding that's going to be somewhat duplicative with Mr. Murphy's testimony, but
Sure.
if you could please focus from a civil
I'll
engineer.
give it slightly more detail.
Yeah.
The improvements proposed include a pad mounted utility shed, which is approximately 7,280 square feet in footprint area, a raw materials storage shed, 500 square feet in area, a underground fire water containment tank that will be held in a concrete vault underground, a pad mounted above ground fire suppression supply water tank, a underground stormwater management system, and a pad mounted tank farm, 7,125 square feet in area. There will also be a pad mounted pump house to be associated with the above ground water tank. The improvements will leverage existing paved areas on the site to limit added impervious coverage and replacing where we can with paved areas with grass where possible or practical. And there will be a net increase of just over 1% of impervious coverage compared to the entire site area. And then existing parking areas will get a fresh mill and asphalt overlay.
We'll come back to the details of those improvements in just a moment as they relate to the ordinances. You mentioned stormwater management and an underground stormwater management system. What will be the nature of that system?
So we have, we've undertaken stormwater infiltration tests on the property already, and also already engaged with the township engineer and the Chester County Conservation District to discuss the overall stormwater management strategy. But the plan is to capture and manage the areas of improvement through an underground stormwater system that is made out of modular plastic structures. Looks very much like milk crates when you look at them, kind of before they get buried. But it'll be an underground stormwater system that will capture water, infiltrate as much as we can into the groundwater system, and then discharge the overflow back into the site stormwater conveyance system.
Is there any reason concerned that material from the tank farm would find its way into the stormwater management system?
No, by nature of how the tank farm will be designed, it will actually be impossible for any chemicals or hazardous materials to make it into the stormwater system. The tank farm will be will have a containment wall perimeter that will be sized not only for the chemicals themselves, but I think a 10% addition to those, as well as accounting for runoff from stormwater events, and also if there's any fire suppression added to that. Additionally, any liquids, be it clean stormwater in that tank farm, will have to actually be manually pumped out and into the stormwater management system. Will not drain by gravity or by valving or anything like that.
So there's a complete physical disconnect between the tank farm and the stormwater management.
That's correct.
Now, earlier, a moment ago, you said that you had reviewed the township zoning ordinance as part of your work for this project. The improvements to the property which you just described, are those compliant with the area and bulk criteria, excuse me, for the UD zoning district?
With the exception of the variance, which was granted, yes.
Okay, so I just want to unpack that. So
Sure.
the setback for the central utility building, the 7,000 plus square foot building, for which a variance was granted.
Correct.
Other than that, all of the improvements which you just described comply with the ordinance as written.
Yes.
Okay. Would you please take a look at exhibit A11? You have it there?
Yes.
Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Can you tell us what that is?
This is a memo written by Traffic Planning and Design, who is a traffic consultant retained by PureLite, written to McMahon Associates, who is the township's traffic consultant, summarizing the expected traffic impact to the township based on the proposed PureLite use. And this memo analyzes the proposed use and compares it to the use that was operated by W.L. Gore and Associates for 10 years up until 2018. And this memo finds that in every area of analysis, including morning and evening peak hours, as well as overall weekday traffic, that the PureLite site will have actually a reduced amount of traffic when in comparison to the W.L. Gore use.
All right. Mainstay did not prepare that document.
Mainstay did not prepare this, no.
Nevertheless, is that the type of document that you as a civil engineer would normally and customarily rely upon in performing your civil engineering duties?
Yes.
To your understanding, has the township traffic engineer offered an opinion on whether or not PureLite's redevelopment of 380 Starr Road requires a traffic impact study?
My understanding is that the township's traffic engineer has agreed with the data provided by TPD, Traffic Planning and Design, and has indicated that no traffic study would be required.
Okay. I'd like to now turn your attention to the design standards at Article 16 of the zoning ordinance. Have you had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Prior to this evening?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to start first with screening and buffering. In the event that the Board of Supervisors should require the installation of a screen buffer along Starr Road, at 380 Starr Road, is there enough space at the property to be able to plant a screen buffer that would comply with the zoning ordinance?
Yes.
You understand that PureLite is not proposing to do anything up along Starr Road that would require new screening, correct?
Correct.
Would you please take a look at the performance standards at section 200-110?
Yes.
Those are generally with regard to odor, noise, vibrations, radioactive emissions, correct?
Correct.
Do you have any reason to conclude as the project civil engineer that PuroLite's use of 380 Starr Road will not comply with those requirements?
I have no reason to think that.
All right. If you take a look in the binder there, at Exhibit A14. Landscape plan.
This did not print very well.
Sorry?
Didn't print very well. It didn't print very well.
Nevertheless, you prepared Exhibit A14.
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
All right. Does the landscape plan as prepared by you, even if it didn't copy it very well for the binder, does that comply with the standards set forth at section 200.101 of the zoning ordinance and the saldo regarding landscape?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and that's that plan as part of the land development plan set is being reviewed by the township engineer now.
Yes, correct.
Does PuroLite propose any changes to the site in terms of vehicular access or traffic controls?
No.
And as you noted earlier, PuroLite's use will actually produce less traffic than the prior active use of the property, correct?
Correct.
Other than turning one of the existing parking areas at the site into the tank farm area, PuroLite is not proposing to change any of the parking or interior circulation, correct?
Correct.
Would you please take a look at Exhibit A12? I'm sorry, A16. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is that a truck turning plan
Yes.
comprised of 2 sheets?
2 sheets. Yes.
Could you take us through how trucks will circulate at the property?
Yeah. So there are 2 accesses into the site via Starr Road. The access that would be further to the southwest is the main access to the site's shipping and receiving area. It's actually gained via the adjacent property owner. PuroLite's property has an easement allowing them access to use that access. So we prepared the 2 sheets in Exhibit A18 to show both emergency vehicle access as well as kind of the truck, the specific types of trucks that will be accessing the site and their ability to gain entrance in and around that driveway and in and around the tank farm area.
And I'm sorry if you just said this, but if you didn't, please go ahead and confirm the size of trucks which were used to prepare A16.
So we looked at a fire truck aerial apparatus. That's a fire truck with a ladder on the top of the truck. We looked at a tanker vehicle, a standard tanker size vehicle, which is overall approximately 60 feet in length. And then we looked at the largest tractor trailer size that populates the roadways. That's a single trailers, and that's called a WB67. It's a 53-foot trailer behind a articulating cab that typically has a sleeper cab. So that's the largest size that we looked at. And all of the vehicles have access in and out of the site and are able to maneuver without any additional improvements.
Please take a look at Exhibit A15.
Yes.
You prepared that?
Yes.
That's part of the land development plan set,
Yes,
and it's under review as we speak by the township engineer.
that's correct.
Okay, did you design that plan to comply with standards set forth at 200-106 of the zoning ordinance?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that the lighting plan for the property does comply with that section of the zoning ordinance?
Yes.
Could you please just describe for us generally the lighting proposal?
Yeah, so when we put together this plan, we took a look at where existing light poles on the site are currently situated. We knew that PuroLite has a desire to improve their site from an efficiency standpoint. So we are planning on replacing the existing lighting fixtures with LED lighting that would be a little bit more efficient than your old sodium or halogen type lamps. And we modeled this in an electronic software called Visual, which provides foot candle data and gives us these contours, which basically describe the illumination level. So the illumination levels closer to those light poles are you'll see them, they're like more circular or tighter in area, and as it expands out, the lighting levels go down. This also gives us the ability to also direct lighting to make sure that we're not impacting neighboring properties, so that the things like glare and overall illumination are reduced from that standpoint. Overall, I think we ended up adding, I think 3 or 4 total light poles just to make sure that we had enough coverage over areas that may be, traversed by pedestrians, in the evening hours. But overall, parking lot lighting is going to be operated on an as-needed basis, and the tank farm area in general will most likely be operated on a switch that can be turned off, so that when not in use, there's no need to have those lighting levels, just sitting there for no reason.
Okay.
Right.
Now, there was some concern, if memory serves, about security at the tank farm. Does this lighting plan have the ability to be adjusted if the township would like to see additional lighting at the tank farm for security purposes?
Yes, absolutely.
Will shields be used to prevent off-site properties from being able to see the source of the illumination?
Yes, in fact, this drawing was put together with that factored in.
How many loading spaces are there at the existing building?
2.
And is PuroLite proposing to reduce that number?
No.
So there will be 2 loading spaces in the after condition, just as there are in the before condition?
Correct.
You didn't design those loading spaces, but given your truck circulation plan and your understanding of the site, are those loading spaces situated such that they don't interfere with any access ways or parking areas at the property?
Yes.
Referring your attention, please, to section 109 of, I'm sorry, section 200-109 of the zoning ordinance.
Yes.
You calculate the number of off-street parking spaces which are required for PuroLite's use of the property.
Yes.
And what is that number?
182 are required.
And how many are to be provided?
222.
Would you please stick with the zoning ordinance and turn to section 152? So not the entire ordinance I printed out. Relevant.
152. Got it. In the front. Yeah.
Would you please turn your attention to section 200-152E?
Yeah.
Have you reviewed these criteria for conditional use approvals as set forth in that section?
Yes.
Have you formed an opinion as to whether or not the application as presented complies with these criteria?
The application complies with these criteria.
Those are all of the questions I have for Mr. Citro on direct.
Board members have questions?
Regarding scope of tank.
Yes.
I know the tank farm has all the necessary requirements to keep the product within there if there's a breach in one of the tanks. How is, if there's a breach in the tanker or the hose also?
Right. So in the land development set, you'll see that we have made provisions so that the tanker trucks will now drive on top of a containment area. So should a spill occur, it will all be contained within basically an underground concrete pit. And similar to the tank farm, should there be a spill, any material that gets into that pit, including stormwater, will be manually pumped out. So it's, even after rainfall events, there will need to be inspections of any containment area to ensure that there's no issues with contaminated liquids in them before they get pumped to the storm sewer systems.
Anything else?
Yeah, I have a couple. Thank you. You covered a lot this evening. Turn that on. Good. You talked about the lighting plan. Have you done roughly measurements at the property lines?
Yeah, so they're currently shown there, yes.
Okay, and everything that you're going to do with any improvements, they'll be within the parameters of the ordinance.
Yes, and we've also, I would add, we've had discussions with Mr. Klein regarding the lighting. We understand that he'll be doing a review as well, and any comments that he has, we will address.
Okay. As far as the landscape buffer, especially in speaking along Starr Road, as well as where the new addition is and the tank farm, I'm not sure that I followed the plan.
Yeah, I apologize that the plan did not get printed out very
Okay.
well. So if I turn our attention maybe back to this drawing here, but since the development of this conditional use drawing, we have shown some additional landscaping, primarily along this southeastern property line. We're going to be populating this strip of grass with arborvitae that'll buffer the view from the residence to the south. Then along the driveway, we have additional plantings provided. We did have discussions with the fire marshal, who requested that we keep those plantings low in height adjacent to the tank farm so that he has apparatus access from the outside. So those areas will be provided with bushes, shrubs instead of trees. So we have more trees further to the west towards Starr Road.
Mhm. Okay. And then lighting for the tank farm, you said that it'll be switched.
Yes, that's the plan. The plan is to have that on a switch. Evening operations are not going to be frequent, so there's no need to have that area illuminated to the levels that we're showing on a 24/7 basis.
Okay. And would it be motion activated or switched?
So I'm going to defer that over to Michael.
Switch. Okay. Then
I
if you
might
can,
add for the record that you're still under oath
yes,
from the previous hearing, so thank you.
if you can walk me through the stormwater and the aspect of what
Sure.
Troy asked about if there's a breach in the hose.
Yeah.
I'm picturing this because I deal with fuel oil. So where we load and unload, there's roofs and it goes into a containment, but it has an oil water separator. I don't think such exists for chemicals.
Right. So it's actually a PuroLite standard that any spills have to be manually pumped. In other more common situations, you'll see a gravity pipe, like a sump with a gravity pipe that has a manual valve. But the concern with that is that maybe somebody forgets their standard operating procedures and closes the valve. So, unbeknownst to the operators of the site, there could be a spill that gets into the stormwater system. So really what we're essentially building bathtubs, if you want to think of bathtubs that have no drain to them. Somebody will actually have to physically come out and pump, whether it's by a pumper truck or a sump pump, a portable sump pump. Someone will actually have to physically go out there, inspect what's in those containment areas, make sure that it's clean. And if it's clean, then there'll be some pumped out to specific locations based on our stormwater requirements. There's actually 3 containment areas. They drain to 2 different locations. So there will be a standard operating procedure on which containment area gets drained where.
Okay. And then in the event of a spill, the containment would have product in it.
Yes.
Then you would call the environmental people with a vacuum
The
truck.
the site's environment the site will have a spill protection plan in place that will require them to enact certain, go through their checklist and call the right people.
Okay. And last question was on the access to trucks and fire apparatus.
Yes.
You've run the fire apparatus through the fire marshal
Yes.
and he's fine with the
So,
access?
yeah, so we discussed that. Yes, we discussed that with him. We also discussed with the fire marshal locations of fire hydrants and where he wants fire hydrants. Actually going to be getting rid of all the existing fire hydrants on site and putting all new fire hydrants based on where he's asking for them.
Okay, nothing further.
Right, anyone else? No, all right. Ms. Manich, do you have any questions of this witness? Do you want to come up here just so the court reporter can hear you? Yeah, that's going to be awkward, but I guess it's the best we can do. Right.
The questions I have are regarding a few different items. I was not able to make the April 12th meeting, so I'm unaware of the landscape plan. I don't know if I can. receive a
Ma'am,
copy.
Ma'am, this is a time for you to ask questions of his testimony tonight
Okay.
and just what he testified to.
Okay.
So,
My question to you is the existing landscape that is there in the back side of the property facing the residential area, is any of that being removed or changed?
I believe you may be referring to the landscaping that it would be on the south side of the driveway. That is on the property of another property owner, and there's, to my knowledge, no intention of removing that.
Okay. The consideration for the planting along Starr Road and the types of plants being used, is there a list anywhere that is populated for those types of plants?
So there are several lists available, including some guidance in the township ordinance, but at this time, we're not proposing any improvements along Starr Road. And right now, there are no landscape improvements adjacent to Starr Road.
Has any consideration been given to the noise for trucks backing up and turning around in that back area for residential? I guess the concern is
it's a question.
Yeah.
Not a concern. You can do that later. You'll get to testify later. Sorry, it's hard.
Okay.
It's a hard thing to do.
yeah, understand.
A sound study has not been conducted, other than to say that the facility will continue to operate the way that it had operated for a number of years prior to PureLite's purchasing of the property.
So is that safe to say that the hours that the trucks would be coming would be during daytime hours?
It's very confusing to mix up. So if you don't know the answer to that question,
Okay, I would defer that question to Mr. Murphy.
right, so we'll bring him back on. We can cross-examine him again, right?
Are you, as the engineer, aware of the difference in grade between the residential homes and the building for PureLite? And obviously, with that.
That's a
being-
question. Why don't we stop there? Okay, you answer the question.
Yes, I am.
Okay. For that reason, has any consideration for landscape design been given to enhance that area where the difference in grade is?
So we can control what is on PureLite's property, and where we have limited space between the property line and the edge of driveway, we are going to be planting a row of arborvitae. And I think there's somewhere between 25 and 30 arborvitae that will be planted along that strip.
Okay. For the lighting considerations, has any consideration been given to the hours of the lighting? You said that it's motion detected?
No, it was testified that the lighting around the tank farm will be on a switch. Other lighting throughout the property, including the parking lots, will be based on PureLite's hours as well as whatever township ordinance requires.
Okay, and as you understand it, what are the hours of PureLite?
I would defer that question over to Mr. Murphy.
For the construction purposes of the project, do you have any idea of what the hours would be for the construction of the project?
I believe the township has ordinances that govern that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Drip? Is not present. All right. Mr. Gill, do you have another witness or want to redirect this witness?
Just to confirm, there was no meeting on April 12th, correct, Mr. Citro? We referenced April 12th as the date of submission of the land development.
That's correct.
That's all I have for Citro. I'll recall Mr. Murphy to respond to these.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. It makes it easier. You were previously sworn and that oath continues.
Mr. Murphy, during the first session of this hearing, you testified, I believe, that PuroLite has the ability to control the hours at which trucks deliveries come to the site or deliveries or product leave the site, correct?
Correct.
Would you please elaborate further on that?
Yeah, so for the vast majority, truck deliveries and exporting of wastewater will happen during normal business hours during the week.
Okay, and when you say normal business hours, what do you mean?
Normal office hours. They haven't been defined exactly yet, but it would be during, 7 to 5
We're
or
talking about daytime hours.
daytime, correct?
So there is no expectation that deliveries to the site or trucks getting material, whether it's product or wastewater from the site, will be happening overnight. Is that correct?
There is a chance that they could happen overnight, but they'll be the very slim majority or slim minority. It would be the exception.
Is it fair to say that that would not be normal operating procedure for that to happen?
Correct.
Reference was made to lighting and the hours of operation for lighting. So we testified that from an hours of operation perspective, this will be a 24-hour operation. The site will be in use 24 hours a day, correct?
Correct.
Nevertheless, PuroLite will have the ability through the switches which Mr. Citro testified about to either turn off or reduce certain outdoor lighting at the site, correct?
Correct. And we implemented that to try to reduce the amount of light that's distributed on the backside of the property. So we're only going to turn those lights on if we need to bring a truck in for any reason.
Okay, let me follow up on that. So the only reason that you would have the site fully illuminated at night would be to bring a truck into the site. Is that your testimony?
Yes, that or if an operator needed to go into the tank farm for whatever reason.
Okay.
But it would be, yeah,
But again, coming back to your earlier testimony, that would not be standard operating procedure or normal operating procedure, excuse me. That would be a rare exception.
correct.
Right. And with regard to construction activities, you testified during the first session of the hearing that most of the construction work at the site will actually be occurring indoors. Is that correct?
Correct.
For the construction work that will be occurring outdoors, you testified that that will be happening during daytime hours. Is that still accurate?
Yes, we'll have to adhere to the township noise ordinance.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Manick, do you have any questions of him or did he answer the questions that you had? If you do, please come forward. Sorry.
Mr. Murphy, I only have a few questions for you. The landscape plan that was recommended, is that something that I can get a copy of as a neighboring property?
Yes.
Okay. And you had mentioned in our previous conversation that you were hoping to create a visual balance for the residential area around the building with the coloring of the building and the new building plans. Is that something that's noted in any of the new existing plans that were proposed on April 12th?
No, painting isn't a requirement of the land development. Painting is not a part of the land development application requirements. So it wasn't included in that package.
The lighting that was proposed, the lumens that are recommended, I guess there is a suggested lighting. Can you tell me what that is?
I am not the expert on that, but I will say we are going to go over the lighting plan very thoroughly in the land development plan process. So that's the plan that we just submitted on April 12th, and it will go through several rounds through the planning commission to work out details like that. It'll be reviewed by Mark Klein, the township engineer, and many others as well.
Okay, and that is something that we can get a copy, I can get a copy of? Is that something that's offered?
We'll make a link, plan set available to you.
Okay,
And the land development application is set to be reviewed for the first time by the planning commission.
okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thanks very
You're
much.
welcome.
Any board members have any questions? Mr. Murphy? Thanks. Anything else, Mr. Gill?
Just note that the applicant after some minutes, did have a meeting with some of the neighbors in the first session and second session. Tonight, Mr. Landis, who was not offered as a witness, was present at that meeting. So if board members have any questions about that meeting, Mr. Landis can answer those.
Well, you're presenting him as a witness or what is, I'm not exactly sure.
I am not, because I don't have specific questions.
All right.
I know the board.
Ms. Manich, would you have any objection if the board asked questions of this gentleman? No? Does the board have any interest in any questions for this gentleman? No? All right.
Yeah, could you summarize the
All right.
conversation? with the neighbors?
Please stand and be sworn.
Greg Landis, Landis. Mr. Landis, just by way of context, would you please describe for us all assembled here your relationship to the PuroLite redevelopment project?
I'm part of the engineering team that support.
And you work for a company separate from PuroLite, right?
Yes, I work for IPS, Integrated Project Services. We are engineer of record for the building.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's on.
And you were present at this meeting, which I mentioned a moment ago, between representatives of PuroLite and neighbors of 380 Starr Road. correct?
Yes, we were able to, Mike Murphy and I were able to meet with Victoria and 3 or 4 other of the neighbors who came to the meeting. We walked through the proposal for the back of the property, talked about where landscaping could go, viewed visually the 60-foot drop between where the PuroLite site sits and where the residents sit, and listened carefully to feedback to make sure that what went into the land development plan addressed as best as possible the concerns that were brought up.
And have you had a chance to review the land development plans that were prepared and ultimately submitted on April 12th?
I have.
And do those plans, in your opinion, reflect the results of the conversation, the meeting which happened with neighbors?
They do.
Board members have any questions? No? All right, Ms. Mannix, do you have any questions of this witness? Thank you very much, sir. You're excused.
Those are all the witnesses which we have. I would ask that our exhibits A1 through A16 be admitted, as well as by reference the land development plan set, which was again submitted in full on April 12th. As a good measure, I'll add into that all of the reports, the stormwater management report,
Ms. Manager, do you have any objection to the admission of any of those exhibits into this record? This is your last chance, so, no?
To her.
Yes.
Just to like give her a minute to kind of look at them, at least the landscape plan.
I will reserve action on your request for admission of exhibits. Do you want to, while she reviews those, do you want to make your, do you have any testimony to present, ma'am? Now is the time, not argument, not your concerns, but actual factual testimony. Do you have any testimony to present at this hearing? No, not commentary. That comes later. This is actual factual. I always sort of say it's kind of the commentary is why does the chicken cross the road? But the facts are the chicken crossed the road. So it's facts. And if you don't need to do that, but you have an opportunity, it's just, I have found somewhat difficult for folks doing it by themselves. But if you have facts to testify to, now's the time to do that. No? All right. Thank you then. So you want to make your argument now, Mr. Gill?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to take this off the record. I'm not going to include it, so I'll let you rest. All right.
This application, members of the board, the public, presents an opportunity to return to productive use a significant property here in the township, which is zoned for limited light industrial use, and which is proposed for exactly that type of use. The nature of the use, which has been described in the testimony, which Mr. Murphy testified to, the nature of the improvements and the operation of those improvements, which Mr. testified to, are entirely consistent with the ordinance. As is fleshed out by the testimony and by the exhibits, this proposal falls squarely within the conditional use allowance for light and limited industrial use in the zoning district. Complies with the objective area and bulk criteria in the district. The variance was obtained for the one criterion with which compliance is not possible. The testimony you heard this evening confirms that the use and the improvements comply with all of the design standards for uses within the UD zoning district. As Mr. Citro testified, there is nothing to lead him to conclude, and in fact, he does conclude that the use complies with all of the use criteria set forth generally applicable in the township. On top of all of that, PuroLite is a world-class operator. It's a member of the Ecolab family of companies. This is a rather large and significant operator and a responsible operator. The product, which is to be produced, is benign, but highly valuable. The volume of product that will be produced is such that testifies in and of itself to the extremely technical nature of the production and high value of the product. PuroLite's use of the property will bring a significant number of highly skilled jobs, not only to this site, which has sat unused for far too long, but to the township generally. Mr. Murphy testified why the property is perfectly situated for PuroLite's use. And as I said a moment ago, PuroLite's application falls squarely within the conditional use criteria. We understand, as with any land use application, there are going to be questions posed by the individuals who own property. This is where they live. This is their homestead. And those questions have been heard. They've answered during the course of the hearing. The applicant has reached out and had offline meetings with the neighbors and will continue to do so as and if necessary. With all of that in mind, we respectfully request that the board of supervisors grant the conditional use application, allow the land development process to continue to move forward, bring back to productive use this important property.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. I have a couple of questions just to make sure that I understand. During the course of the hearing the last time, there were some questions asked of Mr. Murphy in which he agreed to accept certain conditions. Do you by any chance have an enumeration of those conditions or,
Enumeration, no, highlighted in the transcript, yes.
okay,
And I would be happy to provide those.
would you please
to the
do that?
transcript.
Yes. All right, thank you. All right, thank you.
Not right now.
Well, I think that if if the hearing is closed, the Board of Supervisors meeting starts in 35 minutes. But I believe that we will go into recess at this point after Ms. Manich decides about the exhibits for possibly a determination this evening. So I might ask you for them now.
Okay, I'll go through my, I believe,
Okay, all
best
right,
I can.
thank you.
That's supposed to go.
The board have any in particular request of this applicant to consider conditions? I know that we spoke about, back on. I know that we spoke about giving information to the fire company, Mr. Alaban. You had very specific questions about that. I think that that's in last time's testimony, but if Mr. Alaban may be able to enunciate that so that we're all clear on what we think Mr. Murphy agreed to. Right, that was you.
Yes, so I think what I had said was that the tank farm will be permitted by DEP or EPA. And if you would, if the application is approved, if you would forward the emergency response plan as well as a list of the chemicals that are handled at the site and the quantities, and a rough idea of when deliveries would come and go to not only the township, but to the Avondale Fire Company, I think that would you be agreeable for a condition of that? Okay. I think that was the long and short.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alaban. So now you don't have to look for that one, Mr. Gill. Ms. Manich, did you have a chance to review the exhibits? Do you have any objection to their being a part of this record? All right, thank you. Then they're admitted. Now, have you decided, do you have any testimony that you want to offer? No? Do you then want to, Mr. Gill has made his presentation. Do you want to give your argument, as it were, to the board, your concerns? This is a time to tell them your concerns about the application. And it's not going to go on the record, so you can just stay there if you like. Okay, all right. Anyone in the public who has any comments or concerns about this application? There being no response, do you want to recess then?
All right, we'll recess this until 7 p.m. Adjourned.